I'm not saying you shouldn't read Shakespeare. I'm just saying that there is way more to the world of play scripts than one long dead dude. I'd kind of forgotten that when you broadly refer to plays in the Western world in reference to a written text, people tend to immediately think of Shakespeare and not much else. When I mentioned reading plays in a recent video saying not many people do it, a lot of viewers commented that they had been required to read plays in school and then dropped those Shakespeare titles. If not him, it was like Chekhov or Ibsen or Tennessee Williams. So I'm guessing that educational systems don't often require modern play readings as part of their curriculum, unless maybe that educational system is specifically for theater. And by modern, I mean like 20th century onward. I'm guessing this because I spent 4 years at a university getting a degree specifically in theater and was still required within that program to read very few modern plays. Luckily, I am a massive research nerd. Sometimes. It's selective nerdism. But when I decided to go to college for musical theater, I thought, dang, I gotta study up, right? I can't be the kid who's never heard of or seen some famous musical that everybody else knows about. So I sat down and watched Carousel and Joseph's Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat and Oklahoma. Honestly, not really a huge fan of any of those, but musicals that you can watch on screen has always been a rather limited category, and was even more so back in 2010. It hadn't really occurred to me, though, that straight plays, meaning non-musicals, would be a part of my education. Kinda a huge part of my education. So when I arrived at college and found out that we did 3 straight plays every year and only 1 musical, and also I was never gonna be a standout participant in the singing world, I quickly came to the conclusion that I should extend my research to the rest of theater and read scripts rather than just librettos. Not that I was really reading librettos, but you get my point. We had a small script library. It was a converted closet in our school theater that was open for all of the students. I think it mainly contained the personal collection of our school's dean that he had donated, I'm sure with some other additions over the years. But it was definitely enough material to keep me reading for 7 semesters straight, and that is exactly what I did. Plays were great daily reading material because they were so small. They didn't add any extra weight to my already very heavy book bag, and I could easily whip one out in the 5 minutes before a class started and get through several pages, which meant I was often reading multiple plays a week, sometimes multiple plays a day, especially when I had super boring core classes that did not require me to pay attention, at which point I would just blatantly read scripts all the way through the class. So by the time I graduated college, I had read quite a few scripts. More importantly, I had ignited an interest in continuing to read scripts, at first fueled by my desire to be a director, and then later on, gently fanned by my knowledge of how good they can be. For many, many years, I was a part of the Dramatist Play Service book club. This was not a real book club in the way one typically thinks of a book club, yeah? Dramatist Play Service is one of the largest publishers of play scripts in America. Their plays are generally packaged like this in a variety of bright rainbow colors. And for a while they had this subscription service, the Dramatist Play Service Book Club, where you would get 7 random plays, random to you, I'm sure they were selecting them with great care, delivered to you every quarter. They probably still have this, I'm just not personally subscribed to it anymore. So if you have ever wondered about my rainbow colored bookshelf, thanks be to the Dramatist Play Service Book Club. I got a lot of plays from them over the years, although some of these I did just purchase myself. Used bookstores usually have a small section of play scripts, but play scripts are really small, so there can be a lot of them in those small sections, and they're often going for like $1 or $2 each. So a few of these probably came from used bookstores. Most of them, though, were from the book club. But if you think that's a lot, you ain't seen nothing yet. Come with me. Oh, that's not safe. These are also all play scripts, ranging from very recent productions to exceptionally ancient ones. I have a quite detailed spreadsheet for my play library, because of course I do. Every single play that I own is listed by title, author, production date, required performers, story date, scenery type, performance style, so many things, including, yes, a column for whether I think it's a good play for a college to produce, and whether I personally would have liked to direct it. The caveat for this list is that I cannot catalog a new play into it until I've read the play. So we are currently at 406 plays, and I've read every single one. But also I do have several plays that are not cataloged yet because I haven't read them yet. There's a few in my to-read pile in the bedroom, and then I've got a collection of Marlowe plays over there. This one here, I know I haven't cataloged this. It's 16 famous British plays, and I haven't touched it yet, so that's not cataloged. So technically I own even more than 406. I just haven't read them yet. And that does not include at all the plays that I've read but don't own, like all of the plays that I read during college. And this is why I say you should read plays. There are so many, and they're so varied. We literally have thousands of years of theatrical scripts. They will educate you, they will entertain you, they will wildly move you. At least some of them will. And they're so fast to read. If they have to be performed in like 90 minutes or so, depending on the time period, then you can definitely read them in less than that. You're not taking the dramatic pauses. So today, by request from a small but big enough for me spattering of you, I am gonna go through my play library and give you recommendations. Oh, and I almost forgot, Shakespeare is not included in my drama library spreadsheet, even though I own his entire works. Got this at a used bookstore for like 30 bucks. Thank you very much. And I have read most of them, some of them. I can't really keep track anymore of which ones I've read and which I haven't. But I kind of do the opposite of most people. When I hear the word plays, I kind of forget that Shakespeare even falls into that category. I think because he is so often grouped with literature, with novels, when it comes to study or required reading. So, my recommendation list, if you couldn't tell already, will include 0 Shakespeare. Not because we have anything against Shakespeare, but because that's been done enough. Actually, I definitely have some plays that are modern Shakespearean riffs, but no original Shakespeare. And I did not want to come up with this list in advance, so we're just gonna go off script here and explore together. I'll try to make an actual like top 10 list in post while I'm editing, and then like throw up my recommendations on there as I go, because it's gonna be totally random right now. Like, I'm genuinely interested to see how many of these plays I remember, you know? But we're gonna start with these, and then we'll head back to the rainbow shelf and see what I liked over there. My favorite playwright is Tom Stoppard, who, you may not know his name. You might know his name. You definitely probably know some of his works because he also is a screenwriter. So here's some of the movies that Tom Stoppard wrote. I don't feel like remembering the titles right now. I'll do it during editing. I believe I have every single play that he's written. If you have heard of Tom Stoppard, it is probably because of this play. This got very famous, but it is not the play of his that is my favorite, or necessarily the one I would recommend reading. If you're really into Shakespeare or you know Shakespeare well, this is really fun to read because it is a Shakespearean riff. If you don't know Shakespeare very well, you're probably not gonna get a lot of it. My favorite Tom Stoppard, and the thing that made me fall in love with his works, is Arcadia, which is not this entire book. There's other plays in here, but it is in this book. It was just so brilliantly written and so intellectually deep and also so funny at the same time, which is a really difficult mix to get something that is funny and also makes you go, oh. I don't know, it just, it was fascinating to me. I need to go read it again because it's been a while now. But it gave me the impression that, like, this was written by somebody who is really book learning intelligent. You know, like sometimes you read something and you're like, oh, you know stuff about science and math and literature and like, you know stuff about a lot of stuff, don't you? Or you have a really good research assistant. Yeah, so that's my first recommendation. We'll see where it falls on the list in the end. Arcadia by Tom Stoppard. And if you love that one, then I would recommend exploring some of his other plays. I'm trying to think what maybe my second favorite is. I mean, do read Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead if you like Tom Stoppard. I think the other one that I remember the most clearly is Indian Ink, which is also in this one. Like, I can still picture scenes from that play, which means it made rather an impression. Ooh, here's another one that I can recommend. Paula Vogel, I would say, is probably my second favorite playwright, or you could say that she and Tom Stoppard are both up there at the top. And Baltimore Waltz specifically is such an interesting one for me. It's the one I recommend, it goes on the list, but it is a play that I read during college. And then I got this collection years after graduating. Did not at all remember that I had read the Baltimore Waltz. So I just started reading it again and was like, why is this seeming very familiar? And like, you know, by a few pages in, I was like, okay, yeah, I've definitely read this before. And I remembered that the first time I read it, I really didn't get it at all. It was kind of like, okay, that was interesting, I guess. When I reread it years later, as, let's be honest, quite a different person, it immediately was so good to me. I was enthralled, and I think this is the most that I've ever pictured a play with my like director brain. Like, I was reading this and I saw the staging. I saw how I would do it personally. It's such a clever and witty and sympathetic take on something really tragic. By the way, I'm not going to tell you what any of these plays are about. They're quick reads. Again, you can read them in like an hour, 2 hours. So I don't feel like you need to know what they're about going in. Yeah? Discover what it's about by reading it. And she definitely has some other plays that I loved, but the Baltimore Waltz, it's a good one. Julia Cho, she's up there in my favorites. I know this is one that I have in double. The language archive I already had. It's out there with my rainbow plays, but then this collection I picked up because it has 4 other of her works, and I really wanted to explore what else she's written because I loved the language archive so much. So that's my recommendation here, The Language Archive by Julia Cho. Very moving. I believe this is also the play that just had this one specific line in it that meant so much to me. Oh yeah, this is also the play that made me discover the book 6,000 Years of Bread, which is right here. I bought and read this entire book because of this play, and it was interesting. Ooh, I found the line that I love. All I know is sometimes you can feel so sad it begins to feel like happiness, and you can be so happy that it starts to feel like grief. You can feel so alive, it starts to feel like death, and you can feel so dead that you start to feel alive. And some people, most people, live their whole lives without touching any of these places at all. Ooh, that line spoke to me. The Language Archive by Julia Cho. Oh, here's a good one. This might have to be an author recommendation rather than a specific play. Rajiv Joseph. I was actually introduced to his works my senior year of college because I saw a performance of Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo. And then I think right after that, I read Gruesome Playground Injuries. But technically, I think my favorite out of this trio is probably Animals Out of Paper. His writing is very good. These are all three good plays. I'm not sure if he's written anything beyond this. So that's why I'm going to recommend him as an author rather than one of these specific plays. I will say this is probably the first of my recommendations that I would put a content warning on. He writes tough stuff. It's disturbing in the way that a good play should disturb you. Not like I'm going to have nightmares about this, but like this has moved me. Gruesome Playground Injuries, though, is fascinating. The way it's done is so interesting. Maybe I'd make that one the top recommendation. I don't know though. Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep it as the author. They're all three worth reading. Highly recommend. Okay, here's a bit of a anti-recommendation. This is just personal preference. As I always say about my opinions, they are just personal preferences. I'm not saying that these are not good and those are good, any of that. You know. Sam Shepard is a really highly regarded playwright. I will say I personally did not really like any of them. Like, I didn't really like his style. So that's a little bit of like a anti-recommendation there. Ooh, Snow in Midsummer. This was a really, really good play. It's one that I don't remember in detail, but I remember like the general sense of it, which means that it really did have an impact on my brain. This is a modern rendition of a classical Chinese drama, and I think we are very used to seeing in Western culture renditions of Shakespeare or renditions of the Greek and the Roman plays. Like, there are definitely several in here that are redone versions of Greek dramas or comedies. But like that same thing is happening around the world, and they're such good stories. It is worth exploring. So, Snow in Midsummer, recommend. Speaking of Greek retellings, Eurydice by Sarah Ruhl, I think is how you say her last name. My college actually did this play the semester that I was working at Disney World, so I missed it, but I stole the script from someone. It's got their markings in it and everything. The markings are all about lighting, so I'm assuming I maybe stole this from whoever was the assistant lighting designer that semester. The thing is, it's an interesting play. I don't know that I personally would specifically put that on my list of recommendations. Maybe I'll put it in like an honorable mention section. I also have another collection of her works, and the one that I remember out of this is Melancholy Play. I remember it being very interesting. So I might just put Sarah Ruhl, the author, on my honorable mentions list. If I'm gonna do a top 10, I gotta limit my recommendations, or we're just gonna have like a top 100. Oop, but I do have one more from here. Oh, I've got a few more from here. Dang it. Metamorphosis by Mary Zimmerman. This goes on my top 10 list. And I'll be honest, maybe it is the director in me that loves this play so much. It is meant to be performed in a pool. Not necessarily like you get an existing pool and bring everyone there, although that would be interesting to see. You're supposed to build a shallow pool of water on the stage that takes up most of the stage, and the play happens in and around water. It's a fascinating play. I would love to see this one performed at some point in my life. That goes on the list. Okay, I'm pretty sure that was 5 for the top 10 list, and I feel like I have to save the other 5 spots for the rainbow shelf. So let's do like a lightning round of honorable mentions from these stacks right here. Here's what I still have not gone through. For a hilarious romp, play that goes wrong, I don't necessarily recommend reading it, I recommend seeing it. If you ever get a chance to see it live, it is so much fun. This one's kind of another anti-recommendation. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't read it at all, but I really wouldn't recommend reading Eugene O'Neill unless you are really interested in theater. Just my personal recommendation. Kind of the same with Bernard Shaw. This is an older one. He famously wrote Pygmalion, which was then adapted into the musical My Fair Lady. His stuff can be fun, but it's not like so interesting to me personally that I would put it on my like recommendation list. Oh hey, did you know that Steve Martin writes plays or has written plays? I'll stick this on the honorable mention, specifically Picasso at the Lapin Agile. I don't know how you pronounce that. I remember it being hilarious, which is what you would expect from Steve Martin. Marcia Norman is going to be one of my recommend the author more than a specific play honorable mentions. Just another really brilliant playwright. Her famous one is Night Mother. Ooh, this is a fascinating one that I would not necessarily recommend reading. Well, it kind of depends. If you're ever hoping to see it live, don't read it, which I am kind of hoping to see it live, so I probably shouldn't have read it. This top one right here, the bottom one was also very interesting, but this top one famously is a play that is performed with not only zero rehearsal, but zero knowledge of it whatsoever. It is never supposed to be performed by the same person twice, and the person who performs it is handed the script, like, as they're walking on stage. I'm gonna put that in my honorable mentions because, like, if you're interested in theater but you don't go see theater, I guess I would recommend reading it. It was moving. I'll do this as honorable mention because Christopher Durang, I've read a lot of his stuff. He's known for being a very comedic playwright, and his stuff really is just hilarious. If you can read any Christopher Durang, you'll probably have a good time. So maybe I'll put him on as an author recommendation rather than a specific play. Fleabag, if you have seen the TV show and you loved it and you want more, I do recommend reading the original play. It's great. She is incredible. Under Milkwood is a very sort of personal recommendation for me. This was the first straight play I was a part of at all during college. It was the second one we produced my freshman year, and the first one had been like Schoolhouse Rock Live for the kids. Bit of a one-off. So this felt to me like the first piece of like real theater that I was a part of. I did the wardrobe, or like I helped people with quick changes backstage. It was originally a radio play, and I think the way we staged it, the director staged it at college, was really cool, and it is a very fascinating play. All right, that was all of the plays from back here. Let's go to the rainbow shelf. Okay, let's start with the red Mr. Honey Bear. Go elsewhere. Because these are in rainbow order, they're not at all in author order, so like there's probably several in here that are the same author, but they would all just be scattered throughout. I'm basically just gonna look for the titles that I remember the play. You know, that does say a lot. When you've read hundreds of plays, especially having not seen them, like I remember every play I've seen, but when you're just reading them, it's like the ones that meant the most to you really are going to be the ones that you remember. First one I remember, and I would definitely recommend this one, Photograph 51, Anna Ziegler, not sure which one it is. She is just a great playwright in general. I know I've read some of her other stuff, so definitely like a playwright recommendation, but Photograph 51, I really, really loved. This, I know I said I wouldn't tell you what they're about, but I will tell you, this one specifically is about Rosalind Franklin, who had a huge part in, I'm gonna get the details wrong now, a huge part in the discovery of the double helix shape of DNA, but because she was a woman has largely been erased from the story. Highly recommend this one. Read by John Logan. I remember this one very vividly. A lot about like art and what it means to be an artist. This might be an honorable mention, depending on how many I find here. I'm still in the red. The Heidi Chronicles by Wendy Wasserstein. This one is very personal to me because I performed a section of it for my senior recital, but I did that because it's such a good play. It's good stuff. I'm trying to go through these a little bit faster because this is a lot. Ooh. Radiant Vermin is one that is still very much in my head. I don't know that I'd recommend it, but it did stick with me. I mean, I'd recommend it generally as like read anything. Plays are good. The Inheritance, this is part 2. Part 1 is in here somewhere. I'll put this on my honorable mention list because kind of like Angels in America, it's just like a play I feel like you should read if you are at all into theater, and maybe also if you're not. Tribes is another one that is meaningful to me because my first professional theater job was taking over for the stage manager on a production of Tribes. So I was really thrown in there, but it was a super cool experience and I was immediately just taken with this play. The writing is very sharp and biting and quick and witty, and it's a really, really fascinating look at what it is like to go deaf, what it's like to be deaf with a hearing family, what it's like to be hearing with a deaf family. Highly recommend. Also, many of these are good. Ooh, this is one. I'm not gonna put this on my recommendation list, but like, this one's got a reputation in the theater world. Edward Albee's The Goat, or Who is Sylvia? That's all I'll say about it. It's got a reputation. M. Butterfly. Not the opera Madame Butterfly. This is different. This is another one that I read during college when I was still quite young and very innocent, and I remember being lightly scandalized, and then rereading it later in life. I was like, ooh, it's famous for a reason. It's a good one. Okay, I won't put this on my actual, I'll put it on my honorable mentions. Arsenic and Old Lace. There's a movie version of this with Cary Grant. It's so funny. It is such just a silly, stupid, hilarious romp. Sometimes that's what you want in a play. Sometimes you want to be deeply moved and disturbed and educated, and sometimes you just want to giggle. Wonder of the World. I'm gonna put this on my honorable mention because it's another one that's just sort of silly and hilarious, although it does definitely have a slightly dark side and deeper meaning to it. But this is another one that means a lot to me. I went to a musical theater 2-week summer intensive when I was in high school, and all of us were assigned scenes, like 2-person scenes out of various plays. One of the scenes was from this play, Wonder of the World. It was not the scene that I did, but I watched the girls perform it and I was like, that style of humor just clicks with me. David Lindsay Abaire, I think, is more famous for writing dramas, like Rabbit Hole, I think, is his more well-known one, which I also have over there. This one's very humorous, but in a dark way. And then I ended up in my directing class in college choosing a scene out of this as like the first thing that I directed. And like the whole play is just, it's wild and his writing is so good. Oh, there's The Inheritance Part 1. Out of the way, mushroom. Ooh, okay. So I've got several plays by Lynn Nottage, and I'm gonna put her down as an author recommendation. You should read plays by Lynn Nottage, but I was looking for the one that is my specific favorite, which is Intimate Apparel. But I also have Ruined, I have Sweat, Lynn Nottage. Treasure, read them. I think this one I'd put on the honorable mentions list, but I did really, really enjoy it, and it's one that stuck with me. Love, Loss, and What I Wore. I believe it's a one-woman play. Wait, am I thinking about a different play? Oh no, okay, I am thinking about this one. It's kind of a monologue play, not kind of, it is, which is like, rather than like a storyline happening, it's like actors come and perform sort of short connected monologues. And it is literally what it's titled, Love, Loss, and What I Wore. It's like all of these women talking about the connection between certain garments and what happened when they were wearing them, the meaningful memories that it brings up for them. I found it really, really delightful. Oh, there's another Rajiv Joseph. I read that one more recently. Again, recommending him as a general playwright, but like his plays are not for the faint of heart. They are not lighthearted romps. Okay, that was one pass through, grabbing all of my favorites that really stood out to me, and I know from this pile that it was definitely more than 5. Good luck to me While I'm editing this, trying to put these into an actual top 10 list, the honorable mention list is in no particular order. It's just a bunch more that I personally enjoyed. But hey, I like that this like little recommendation collection has a nice rainbow within it. Wahoo! That's that. That is my small number of plays that I would recommend out of hundreds. I mean, that is such a small amount to try to give you. But yeah, check out your library. There might be a section of plays there that you've just never noticed before. And you know, whether it's from my recommendations or it's just random ones you find, try reading plays. They're not a huge time commitment, and therefore, you're not losing much if it happens to be one that you didn't really like. So you might as well explore and try them. And the ones that are really good for you specifically, will just stick with you for so long and move you so much. You can get so varied, you can get plays from so many different perspectives, from different cultures, covering different topics. Like, I don't know, I think just because you can read them so fast, you can really vary up what you read and you can learn a lot from that. I have learned so much from reading plays over the years, and I think that's what made up for the fact that I was only reading classic literature and not really getting much variety there. Like, I was largely reading books by dead white men, but I was simultaneously reading plays by everyone, and I think that helped a lot. So, yay plays! Forget yard work, we have straight up jackhammering happening outside today. Hi, Bubby! Ooh, look who's visiting. Oh, this is not gonna end well. Sorry, bud. Don't kick the plays. And we're back to jackhammering. Ugh! I said, calm yourself. No, not you.